from your dad's perspective, because where it ended up and where it started were so radically different.
The story around being a CEO is that I went with him to his version of the floor, right? Mm-hmm. And I was 7 or 8 years old, and one of his colleagues said, "Hey, it's nice to meet you." And this is like little Sarah, and I'm like, "Hi, nice to meet you." And he's like, "What would you like to be when you grow up?" And I said, "I would like to be a CEO." And he said, "Of what?" And I said, "I don't know." I was like, "I just want to be a CEO." And he asked the same question. He's like, "Why?" And I have always had this like very deep, profound motivation to lead.
You're never going to be perfectly happy all the time. The best you can hope for is to be reasonably happy. Most of the time. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Reasonably Happy. My guest this week is Sarah Personette. She is a leader in the media space. Currently, she is the CEO of Puck, a news source for the insiders in government, media, finance, fashion, and Wall Street. Formerly, she was the chief customer officer at Twitter, the VP of global business marketing at Facebook, where she was a colleague of mine. And she was formerly also the president of Universal McCann Worldwide, which is a massive advertising firm here in New York and around the world. Sarah, welcome. Did I say Sarah Personette?
You did. You said it.
Hello.
You said it. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you. It's been a long time.
It has been.
So I've done, since you haven't written a book yet, and by the way, you worked at Facebook for 7 years. Where's your tell-all memoir?
That's not me. I think that if I did a book, and I think this is kind of the concept behind your podcast, it would really be more about leadership and how we manage through volatility and uncertainty and complexity, basically the world today.
VUCA.
Yes, ambiguity.
What was the ambiguity?
Yeah.
Well, what would the thesis be behind that book?
I think I would probably break it up into the sort of pearls of wisdom that I think about in terms of how I've managed my life and my career and my family. Mm-hmm. I know we'll get into some of these things, but if I pull one out, like stay calm, stay focused, stay classy. If you are like
when they go low.
Yes, absolutely. But like that
mantra.
Minute,
stay calm,
stay focused, stay classy.
God, I wish I would have had this advice 11 years ago before I made massive career mistakes.
Well, I don't think that you can make a career mistake because no, if you choose a job based on what you are going to learn and the value system that you're going to be connected to, mm-hmm. it provides some type of experience that makes you stronger and better in the next role that you take on. So it might mean that you're not in that role for a very long period of time. As soon as there's breakage between the value system or there's breakage in terms of what you're learning, I think mm-hmm. then you have to assess, like, is this the right place for me?
Right.
Can the company meet me where I want to be met? Can I meet the company where they want to be met? That it's always a relationship, and ideally with your manager and with the employees that you manage, you're having a really open and honest discussion. But then you don't have to look back and think that there were any mistakes. They were all just building blocks to get you to this.
I'd like to think that. We moved to New York from Atlanta last summer. It hasn't been easy, but I'm like, it's not like it just hasn't revealed itself yet.
Interesting. No, tell me why. Is it because of personally you haven't found your community?
Well, I think from a comedy perspective, it takes a long time to break into into the scene here. And I think from a community perspective, here's what's interesting about a move in your mid-50s. Yeah, I know I look like I'm in late 40s to say the least. No, when you move in your mid-50s and you don't have a job, so my kids are doing great because they've dropped right into their schools and they love them and they live in New York. My daughter takes the bus to school and she walks across the park, and my son goes and plays soccer at these playgrounds in Central Park. So kids have a thing that they tap into. And if I were to move here as the VP of whatever at XYZ Corporation, it's like, well, that's where you belong every day.
Yeah.
And that's who you're going to work with. And you've got customers and vendors and all that stuff. But if you drop in as hey, I'm going to be a podcaster and a comedian, it's like, okay, good luck. So what I'm saying is we've done the hard work, and the benefit is out here somewhere at time X.
Yeah. I, as you were speaking, I relate to that in two ways. The first one, I moved here in my early 20s. I thought I would be here for 2 years.
Why'd you move here?
I started out in an advertising agency called Starcom MediaVest Group.
Yeah, sure.
And
You worked on Coke? Right.
I worked on Coca-Cola.
Was that the former DMB&B? Did Starcom buy?
No, it was Leo Burnett, and then Leo Burnett split. Actually, and this happened across the entirety of the advertising world.
Yeah.
Around the mid-90s, there was a pretty significant split between the creative side and the media side. And there are still people in the industry today that actually believe it's better collectively together. It's media tends to be a little bit more of a profitable entity, and so that's why a lot of the holding companies did it from a business perspective. But so that was Leo Burnett. They split it out to Starcom MediaVest Group. I moved out here to help open up the office to support Coca-Cola. I thought I'd be here for 2 years. I loved the community in Chicago. Like, it was so warm.
Chicago is such a fun advertising town.
So fun. It's just, and it was where I was born and raised. I mean, we would play softball. We would go out to brunch every Sunday. You just, I always say you like walk into a bar and you walk out with 5 friends, but they're like genuine friends that you invite to your wedding. And that's actually a true story. I invited like friends who we met. My brother and I would like go out on a Saturday night and we'd find 2 new people that were like, hey, how are you? Come to brunch with us the next day.
Have you seen About Last Night?
I have not.
You've never seen About Last Night?
I have not, but I am putting it on my list.
It's the Mammoth play that was made into a movie with Rob Lowe and Demi Moore and Jim Belushi. That's all about. Oh my God! It's probably came out in like '88 or something. So you're too young to maybe have seen it, but it's about Chicago in the '80s and. It's
that sentiment, right?
It's incredible. Well, it's about like young adult professionals figuring out life, and dating and work and bars and all that stuff.
It actually sounds like what the premise of How I Met Your Mother was based on.
It may be.
That's an interesting parallel. But yeah, I moved here, and New York was very anonymous. Like even dropping into a team and a workflow and what should have been a sense of community. It took a long time for that to build. And then
did you come in a management role?
I did. I came in as a supervisor.
Is it harder to make friends when you've got direct reports and responsibility?
That's interesting. As you asked that question, I flashed to like the different sizes of organizations and teams that I've run and different levels. Like I think middle management, it's important to both establish a boundary, but it's also important to have a friendship. I think there, I really, you're in the trenches. You're working 90 hours a week.
A media soup is first level management.
Yes.
It's not high management.
It is not. Fast forward a few years later, I was running a team of 90 people. That was just a much more complex organization. This is when I was running the Mars Wrigley business. And I think at that stage, friendship doesn't necessarily happen across the whole of the organization. You're creating probably tighter bonds with that leadership team. But then I think a really strong culture and a strong team dynamic is one where each of those leaders are pulling their teams together so that those micro teams feel strong. And then your collective responsibility to the organization and to the team is that everybody feels seen and feels heard and feels included. Doesn't necessarily mean friendship. It can, I think, I have always led with kindness and respect and equity. But I think, friendship at various levels can be a little bit harder.
Okay, we kind of jumped into everything, and I meant to start elsewhere. I'll end with what I would have started with, but I want to come back to when I've got a 14-year-old daughter. When you were 14 years old, did you know what you wanted to do when you grew up?
I did.
Did you really?
Yeah.
And what was that? What was your vision at that point?
I knew I wanted to be a CEO.
Okay.
I mean, I know that's really
why. What made you want to be a CEO?
So this is funny. When my dad was a private wealth manager, and he commuted into the city.
You can say stockbroker. Come on.
Yeah, he was a stockbroker at the time. He totally was a stockbroker. Well stated. So he was a stockbroker, and although that evolved, he then moved into like a fee-based business.
The business had to because Schwab went to zero whatever commissions.
Absolutely. And he was on the forefront of moving to a fee-based business, which is, I think, speaks a lot to how I've looked at agility and transformation and renovation versus innovation. Like he modeled that.
It must be interesting to have seen that from your dad's perspective, because where it ended up and where it started were so radically different.
So different.
You couldn't have predicted that there was a safe bridge and like a manageable career path between those two things.
I think that is very fair. My recollection of the story around being a CEO is that I went with him to his version of the floor, right? Mm-hmm. And I was 7 or 8 years old, and one of his colleagues said, "Hey, it's nice to meet you." And this is like little Sarah, and I'm like, "Hi, nice to meet you." And he's like, "What would you like to be when you grow up?" And I said, "I would like to be a CEO." And he said, "Of what?" And I said, "I don't know." I was like, "I just want to be a CEO." And he asked the same question. He's like, "Why?" And I have always had this like very deep, profound motivation to lead. And I think you see this across different leaders, and I think you can become a leader. I don't think you're necessarily born a leader, but there has been something that drives me and motivates me in my decisions that are made in my head and the decisions that I like collectively make publicly that all point to this like real desire to lead. And with that, I ran for student government president when I was in 5th grade, and I lost.
How'd it go?
Lost.
Did you have trouble raising money?
Yes, yeah, I did. I had to start up a SPAC.
The problem with student government is you really don't get a chance to lead. All you're doing is fundraising for the next election the whole time. That's the term limits. And
I know, the term limits that year, that 5th grade year.
You only get 9 good months of leadership out of a 6th grade student council.
I feel like this
treasurer.
is your next bit in comedy.
Well, I was a nerd. I was a student council. I was a president of student council in high school as well.
I think that's so important, though, to do that. Do you feel like in that role you were kind of defining your own ethical and moral compass? You were defining what you leaned into in terms of what your peer set shared, and what you lean out of, how you interact with other
I don't think I thought of it as leadership so much as I just really...
You wanted it for your
I was
college
in the
resume.
right place at the right... Well, that too. I mean, and I was the 5th out of 6 kids, and I wanted to stand out. And so I was like, I want to be the captain of the football team, the lead role in the play, and I want to be the president of the student council. Did all that. But I think also I was and I think the reason people voted for me was because I just really liked where I was.
Yeah. And
I liked the people, I genuinely liked the people that I was in my classes, and I cared. And I think that's why people had confidence.
That's the definition of leadership, though, is that you care deeply, and you, like, I always look at any organization, a for-profit, a non-for-profit, a local organization, a national organization, one that's in school, one that's not, as like my dad used this term, there's a whole story around it, but that we're too good not to be better. And I've sort of made decisions in my life and in my career that orient myself around self-improvement, but that also think about like what are we doing for our community, and we're too good not to be better, and how do I help drive action in that? So, and it's because I care. It's because you care.
Why were you interested in media, besides the fact that they were hiring, and they hire a lot of smart college graduates?
Back in the Starcom Media Best Group days.
When you started in the business.
Yeah, so I went to Northwestern. I graduated in 2001. Most folks go kind of the investment banking or consulting route. I was on that path, but on a whim, I took an interview at SMG.
So much more fun.
And it really,
it's a fun industry.
It's such a fun industry, and it was 2001. So the bubble, like the .com bubble, had just burst, but at the same time, it was consumer behaviors were just massively shifting over to this technological, innovative space. And the media world, which I thought was super cool, it allowed you to be really creative, and it also allowed you to like pair that with helping to influence business and clients and customers. And so to be creative and I mean, my first account that I worked on was Miller Brewing Company. Like, what a fun account for a 22-year-old to come out of college and work on. But I worked, really hard, really long hours. And there's so much value, I think, in being an investment banker, especially at those early days. But it wasn't as structured as that. I got to experience a ton of different customer segments. I got to manage at the age of 23. Like, that is super hard to come by in this day and age. And I think the way Laura Desmond, who was running the company at the time, and Jack Clues and Renetta McCann, they really thought about the whole experience for the employee. And I think I said this in the beginning, like, I've always chosen jobs based on what I'm going to learn and the value system I'm going to be connected to. I really got to learn lots of different aspects of so many parts of the business. And I think that propelled me forward faster as well and just kept me really motivated and intellectually stimulated. So it was really fun and it was really intellectually stimulating.
Most people that listen or watch this podcast know that I worked at Facebook early on, and I was working at Launch.com, which became Yahoo Music, and in 2001, that was exactly when that happened. And the dot-com bubble, I got dot-com bubble all over my face. It was not pretty. But the change in 01, where the internet became a viable marketing platform, first with Google, where marketers said, I can spend $1 and get $2 back, sign me up, let's figure this out. It was similar to when we were at Facebook, when marketers were like, okay, I know this is a new, how do I use this? What does this mean? And the promise wasn't clear from the beginning with Facebook. It was like, from a consumer perspective, you could see the growth like every month. It was incredible, but from like a use as a marketing platform. And it wasn't until after the IPO, when Zuck got serious about monetizing things, that it became a serious marketing platform. And now I would assume, I'm not in the business, of course, but with AI, it's like, here's this other giant inflection point, crossroads, scary river of sticks to cross. It's an industry of constant change, I guess is what I'm saying.
You are completely right. And there's actually like so many different inflection points leading up till now that were these massive technological shifts, but also massive consumer shifts. That first one was sort of the migration between online experience and offline experience. But around that same time, you actually saw cable overtake broadcast. Like,
oh yeah, wow.
Like, I mean, that's like how fast the changes have occurred.
Yeah.
So you had cable overtake broadcast. You had like online video viewership overtake the linear viewership. Then we lived through this with the Facebook world. You had mobile overtake desktop, which was also a pretty significant shift.
Big time.
It really was. It was, and I always thought that was fascinating, that the pivot that we needed to make on the Facebook side of building in HTML5. This is super technical for the audience for a second, but like basically the company was being
circa what, 09 or 10?
It was being built in HTML5, and it totally missed the app economy, and then had to like Zuck paused everything and shifted the company to being mobile first and being app first. And then the
metaverse.
And then the metaverse. And then the metaverse.
And then had to turn around for that.
Yes. So that's exactly right. And so now we see this transformation on the AI side. And it goes back to, like, for me, I wake up every single day thinking about, like, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? And are we still solving the right problem?
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the greatest things that he modeled for that. I don't know if you remember this. There was this one sales summit where he shared that he woke up every single day with like a little bit of amnesia.
Interesting.
And that propelled him to have like a new approach to thinking about solving problems.
Yep.
But we can do that in every industry, and we can do that in every part of our life.
Yeah.
There is nothing that like historically defines us that doesn't allow us to move forward with new rhythm, with new thinking, with new opportunity. And I find that in the media and the journalism space today, and I think we're seeing this across every single company. they all they all did eventually have to digitally disrupt themselves across their end-to-end supply chain. And now that thing's happening with AI.
So I listened to this interview on, we're going to talk about Puck in a minute, but like I want to talk about the lessons we've learned that you've learned through our career that we sort of overlap on. Jimmy Pitaro, who is the chairman of ESPN, rumored to be one of the candidates for the CEO of Disney job. Who knows? But I listened to an in-depth interview with, who's your guy? Dylan.
John Orent, or Dylan.
Dylan, I think, was the guy he did the interview with him. And he was talking about like disrupting his own business, because you've got this business that's got legacy. They've got TV affiliates. They've got, I mean, when ABC does, not ESPN. But ESPN has MSO, old school cable, like dudes in short sleeve shirts in the middle of Pennsylvania who still, send out monthly bills to their cable subscribers. And so you've got to disrupt that business while planning for the future, which is scary as shit. Coming back to your dad, who, was looking at a business that's falling out from under his feet and having to, have faith in the future without a clear pathway.
Absolutely. And you're going to test and learn throughout that. Like Facebook, we used to have all these posters on the wall, and one was like, move fast and break shit. And then after we IPO'd, that became move fast and build good infrastructure, which was
17,
not,
people are like,
not quite as cool. But one of the things that I say a lot is like fail fast, learn faster, off of that fail fast piece of it. And I think this exists right now in the moment that we are in, with the enormity and the speed with which everything across agentic AI and generative AI is coming at us and disrupting every single industry in some way, shape, or form, whether it's the actual industry is being disrupted or the function that you sit in inside of your company is being disrupted. It is happening. And there's no like one singular silver bullet. It is a process of understanding, hey, what is our North Star and our strategy? Mm-hmm. And then from there, how are we testing and learning in order to come out of this time period smarter, better, faster? And I think of it like, I'm jazzed. My team, if they were here, they would tell you this. I wake up every single day and I'm like, this is such an exciting time to be leading in. It is
scary though, right?
It is scary. It is like we are living in a very gray period where we can't see, like to your point about my dad, we can't see exactly what the end point is. Mm-hmm. We're going to get to that end point at some point in time, and we're going to feel so good once we're on the other side of that. But the experience and the journey of getting to that end point is what makes us human. It's what gives us like actual experience. It is what only time and these opportunities can provide. And so if you look at moments of volatility as a time when you can make opportunity, I think, for any one of your viewers that are young looking at the world, your children,
my nephew and niece.
Yes.
Hi. Hey guys.
My 5th grader that's tuning in right now.
Right, yeah. Sorry about the profanity. You probably hear worse when your mom's driving.
Hey, he actually is running for student council today. No. Amazingly enough, he is giving his speech. I
want to contribute to your campaign.
Yes, for vice president of service. That's kind of like a funny connection to all the worlds. But I think as you look at these moments of disruption, like really seeing it as an opportunity and one that doesn't like stall you out is such a motivating place to be.
Okay, I got to ask. So I was going to ask you about AI later, but we're on the topic, so I'm going to kind of come back. Media planning.
Yeah.
I mean, AI can do 98% of what 10 of your 22-year-old spreadsheet jockeys can do.
Like on the agency side, like if I went back into the media agency world,
like what, and on the creative side, I mean, like holy smokes.
So a couple of different things I would say on this. The first one, again, like we've been through these periods of time where things have dramatically shifted, and it has required people to upskill and to learn new things. Mm-hmm. And if you, as an individual, in whatever you do in your life, like if you approach it as what do I need to learn and how can I learn it? There are so many resources at your fingertips.
100%. If you have that mentality, which takes courage and forethought and longish term thinking.
But every day, if you wake up and you're like, what's something new I can learn? I'll zoom out for a second. I always say this to teams that I've run. I think every company has a very serious responsibility to train, to provide learning and development, all of that type of stuff. I really do. But I also think that every single individual can be the master of their own education.
Yeah. And now more than ever.
Now more than ever. I mean, really now more than ever.
Ironically, the tools that are going to displace you are the tools you should be using to prepare for your future.
Absolutely. That's kind of a funny story. So when we were first at Facebook together, I started out as a consumer packaged goods strategist, but I was surprised we weren't doing anything with agencies. And I'll come back to your AI's disruption of agencies in a second.
Sarah Personette avoids question about AI.
I'm not. But so I was surprised we weren't doing anything with agencies. Zuck and Cheryl had a desire to grow the company at a fast clip. I had never written a business plan before, but I felt like there was something we could do in building an agency team and supporting them. I literally Googled, how do you build a business plan? I got 7 templates. I wrote a business plan, and then I submitted it to Cheryl and David Fisher. And first she said no.
Sarah Personette plagiarized business plan
no,
as early
there
Facebook
was nothing
executive.
On the page, it was actually a blank business plan, business template. But that's when I say be the master of your own education, I mean, that was 2009, 2010. Now
which was the dark ages
resources.
in social media.
Yeah. So, okay, getting back to your question on AI. I think every industry, not just the agency world, every single leader at every team level has to be thinking about how can leveraging these tools, and think of these tools as software 2.0. I think it makes
software 2.0. What does that mean?
So software 1.0 is our current or historical
Lotus
suite
1, 2, 3.
Yes, maybe a little bit further on from that. So maybe it's software 3.0.
Windows Millennial Edition.
Yes, but Word, Word was a great tool. Google originally was a great tool. It's for me to be able to put in business, send me a business template and get 7 different business plan templates. It's pretty awesome. But today, I now have the opportunity to basically have a chief of staff in my computer. And if it can make me faster, if it at every single discipline of our company can make us faster and more efficient and more effective, then let's do that. And let's have an open and honest conversation about that. At Puck, we are, in everything we do, talent first, but we are talent first and AI ready. And we're not an AI first company. I think that there's a dismantling that will happen in the media and journalism space if things go too far forward on being AI first. Well, what I mean by that is our model in particular is really anchored and centered around the talent that leads each of our franchises.
The franchises being your verticals of finance, fashion, government, entertainment. Do I have them all? Or did I miss one?
Art. And as of today, we are announcing
comedy.
Nope, AI.
Podcasting. Oh, AI. Cool.
AI.
Oh, sweet.
Yes. So we have Sarah Fisher is actually probably announcing this right now in her Axios newsletter.
Oh, cool.
Ian Kreitzberg, who used to be the editor-in-chief for The Deep View, is coming in to launch our entire AI tech franchise. And could not be more thrilled.
Okay, so real quick, explain what Puck is for those people who don't, because the media world is so complicated right now. What the New York Times called Puck Vanity Fair for the Substack era, which is really interesting because Vanity Fair is sort of the sexiest print magazine. I just had Jeffrey Toobin in here, an hour ago. He was writing. His career was established during the heyday of magazine, long form magazine writing. Vanity Fair was the sexiest of all the print magazines there was. Substack is sort of, this email based platform for people as small as me to be able to get their writing out to their pathetically small audience. Their brilliant writing out to their pathetically small audience. But you're bringing those two together. What does that look like?
Yeah. So Puck is a media platform, and one quick note on being the Vanity Fair of the Substack era. John Kelly, our founder, actually worked at Vanity Fair for years and years and years, and worked with Graydon Carter, who
28-year editor-in-chief or whatever it was.
I mean,
who also wrote, who started Airmail, which feels and looks similar from like the aesthetics of the page, because what you're not seeing on Puck or on Airmail is a bunch of network junk advertising, third-party editorials, like, here are 4 celebrities you didn't know were gay, kind of, junk articles, right?
Yes, we do not write.
Outbrain, what is it, Outbrain? Is that what that was?
Yes, Outbrain. Yeah, but we do not write about that.
No, I know. What I'm saying is, you don't see that on. You're creating a digital product that cares about the way it looks and comes across.
Yeah, I think that's true. And the thesis, let me zoom way out. The thesis around Puck is that in this day and age, people want to hear from the expert in the space. So Matt Bellany is the foremost expert in everything that has to do with entertainment. He was born and raised in the entertainment field. He was an entertainment lawyer. He then went on to be the editor-in-chief of The Hollywood Reporter. And now he is the franchise lead and the anchor talent for What I'm Hearing, which is our entertainment vertical. But then you take that for entertainment, and then, as you mentioned before, we have a fashion vertical, which is anchored by Lauren Sherman. She is a generationally talented author and editor in the business of fashion space. So it's really where the business of fashion meets business analysis. Those two things kind of collectively come together. And so she's writing for that professional audience. We always say that Puck helps me to do my job. So she's really speaking to it's a B2P.
So these are
offering.
like these verticals are industry trades, really.
Yes.
Because I read it as a concern. I'm not in the business anymore, but I'm like, it makes me want to be back in the business world.
In this space. And the reason for that is because it's pulling through to that expert. All of our journalists it's a like peer-to-peer media company. Our journalists have been in the room with the people that they are writing about and the people that are reading about it. And that, I think, is fascinating because our journalists are constantly traversing the interconnectedness of what's happening in media, what's happening in finance, what's happening in art, what's happening in politics. And so there are these different franchises across media, entertainment, fashion, art, the business of sports with John Orand, and the political arena. But at the same time, we do a lot of cross-sharing and cross-pollination of what's happening across those power corners. Like, as you move into the higher ranks of the opinion elite, the business decision makers across each of these categories, these companies that sit in each of these categories and the people that lead each of these businesses, like they aren't just influenced by what's happening inside of art or what's happening inside of the world of fashion. They're influenced by the economic environment that's surrounding us today, the political environment that's surrounding us today.
The interconnectedness of finance and government and entertainment and media.
Exactly.
And you see them interconnected as much now as ever because you've got government intervening in mergers like CBS and whatever the company is that's trying to buy them, and the financial world and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And so you as a business executive, as someone who's grown up in...
As CEO of the Reasonably Happy podcast.
Correct.
Yes.
And I like that title.
Thank you.
But what you're feeling in that subscriber experience, and to go back to like our primary distribution mechanism is a private email. It's a newsletter.
That's the Substack element of it.
It's a distribution mechanism.
Yes,
so
yes.
what you're pulling on is that there's been a boom in the newsletter economy.
Yeah.
And part of that was built up by Substack and individual writers being able to subscribe on that. But between 2020 and 2024, there was a 60% increase in newsletters overall. And it's because of like consumer preferences changed. When we were in the Facebook world, mass consumption, mass media, mass sharing was something that was actually really interesting and exciting. And what's happened...
It was also theoretical.
It was. I think that's true too. But it proved out. The thesis proved out for a long period of time. Now, what you see in the consumer behaviors of the last few years is that people actually want a more intimate connection with who is providing them news.
I think that's right.
And the newsletter format allows us, and every newsletter is sent specifically from one of our journalists, and that relation, and if you hit reply, you can immediately talk to Marian Maneker. You can talk to John Oran. You can talk to Dilling. You can talk to Matt. And so that relationship is very different from what probably existed inside of the 2010s era around consumption behaviors for news and media.
Okay, so
content.
While the rest of the legacy media world and many of its digital offshoots, Business Insider, HuffPo, BuzzFeed, CNN, are laying people off in droves, you're hiring people.
Correct.
Why?
Well, I think there are two things to that. We are both hiring people, but we have I would say the real blessing of having started the company at a time. It started in 2021, so we will be celebrating our 4-year anniversary in September.
God, still so young.
I know, it really is.
You just got through high school.
It's
graduation month.
It is. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And I've been there for a little over a year and a half. We have a 5-year long-range plan where, and this is not massively like illuminating or brain science, but our 4 strategic pillars are revenue growth, audience growth, operational excellence, and brand protection. And under operational excellence, we actually look at revenue per head, and we're tracking how
novel.
How we keep our organization as lean as
what
possible.
What about the last round's valuation?
Yes.
Isn't that what's important?
I mean, certainly those things are important, but when you're
if that's what you're focused on, you're going to hire way too many damn people, and you're going to get you over your skis.
And I think that's there's such beauty in perspective and reflection. Like there's so many life lessons that we can learn from scaling and how companies have successfully scaled in the past. And so that's not, I think for legacy media organizations, you tend to, and actually isn't just media, this is just like legacy companies writ large, you tend to build up around solving problems based on what people in the company are saying need to be solved, instead of saying, hey, how do we keep a relatively flat infrastructure? How do we measure to that? And then how do we still have, very high growth goals and are really focused on sustainable growth over the next, 5+ years. But then if you know that you want to stay pretty lean because it's empowering from a cultural perspective, you also have to then think about how do you get the work done differently. And this goes like circling well back to your AI question. This is kind of before I think the rapid transformation of AI that's really happened in the last 6 months.
I swear, like a couple months ago, I woke up and I went, "Oh, this is real now."
Yeah. I mean, I do think that there's like, if you look at the Mary Meeker charts, it's just like
I haven't heard Mary Meeker.
Mary Meeker, she just published another report after I think. This might be fake news, but I think she took a 5-year hiatus and then just did a whole report on AI. But I bring it back to that is even pre this, like asking the question of how can you work differently?
Yeah.
And, some of those unsexy questions around process and skills and competencies allows us to stay.
So what does that mean, the content creation? I mean, is it the blogosphere kind of fell apart because the individual or the content creators couldn't keep up with the volume.
Yeah.
Because like Andrew Sullivan talked about, he almost had a heart attack because he was writing 24/7.
And that is the opposite of our model. I think you're correct that the digital darlings that you described during the like 2010s through 2020 era, it was how much content per day can you produce?
Crank it out.
Just cranking it out, because that was the way, like the other term during that time frame was growth hacking. Like that's how you could hack growth and audience growth and try to bring them back to your site. We are focused on sustainable, high quality audience growth. And I'm looking at, and we as a team are looking at, what's the lifetime value of the audience that we bring on. So the other metric that's super important to us is churn. We have a substantially low, the average churn rate in the industry is 3.6%.
Monthly subscriber churn?
Yes.
Wow.
And ours is well below that.
Right.
But what it allows us to do is not have to churn out this like thousands and thousands of pieces of copy over just even the course of a day. It allows us to, so that there is an element of scarcity in what Puck produces. There's 4 with Matt at the helm, with Kim Masters, Julie Alexander, and Eric Gardner on our entertainment coverage. They send out 4 newsletters per week. There's 1 per day. So you are waiting for that in your inbox. Same thing with the varsity. It is John Orand and Julia Alexander, and they send out 3 newsletters per week. And so that there's scarcity and lack of commoditization on the content side, but there's also like the way that we edit is a totally different process than what we used to do in the past, and or what past newsrooms used to do, and that allows us to stay really lean too.
I got one word for you.
Yeah.
Listicles.
Ooh.
Think about it. Listicles.
I mean, I actually remember going.
And what would AI be perfect at? Listicles. AI can crank out some mean ass listicles, man.
That was, I remember in like, we were doing, this was like a Facebook like meet and greet at BuzzFeed with a bunch of clients, and we were looking at like the top 20 listicles that had been created and why they were so powerful at that time. I mean, it's that was like 2010.
It's crazy.
It was the growth driver.
Okay, we've talked about so much. This has been fun. You mentioned earlier that you chose jobs based on what you could learn and how your values align with the organization. You were a senior leader at Twitter when a third party acquired the company. Did you not see a future where your values aligned with that new owner?
I won't comment too much on that, only in that there's some active litigation that's going on
active
there.
Litigation. I love it.
But I'll say this, just relative to any experience, and certainly like my experience at Twitter, first and foremost running their client solutions organization, and then eventually being the chief customer officer.
Oh, so you were running like a big part of the company.
Yeah. It was, it was probably like 2,500 people. It was a large,
and
organization.
All of its revenue, or?
All of its revenue.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So a pretty important role.
Yes. Yeah. And I look at that time frame, like that particular period of time when we were going through the acquisition, as one of like the greatest honors of my life. And so I think this goes back to the leadership
Dick was
piece.
CEO at the time?
No, this was Parag.
Okay.
So I wasn't there when Dick was there. I was there when Jack was there, and Parag, and then when the sale of the company occurred.
Right. Okay.
So I think during any point of like ambiguity and complexity, how you communicate with your team, how you communicate. And my team was distributed in every country around the world, multiple levels, multiple disciplines, and being able to communicate with them, how to truly, like, this is where I would frequently stay calm, stay focused, stay classy in a VUCA world, like in an incomprehensible world. The thing that we can control is having empathy for people, understanding what motivates them, and then also really focusing in on the daily actions that we have impact on. And so communicating with that team around the world was really, really special to me. And I think leadership can be hard. It's hard in lots of different moments. It's certainly hard in a very public, volatile time. But I can't imagine being anywhere else. And I would also say that same thing to our clients and our customers, like being able to communicate with them on what to think, how to like move forward, how to think about the platform, the investments that we were making. And I'm super proud to say we had like less than 3% attrition during that time. I think we lost only one client. Like it was really that those. What Glennon Doyle always says, this is the proof that we can do hard things, or let this be the proof that we can do hard things. And I think it was the proof, not just for me, but for so many people that like we can get through a lot of things. And this is also coming off of COVID, the social justice movement, the ads boycott of social media, an economic recession to a certain extent. And so I think resilience is a word that is used a lot now, but I think and from the connections that I still have with a lot of the team members is like they really understand that they can be resilient in all things. And again, if you need a mantra, stay calm, stay focused, stay classy, and you're going to steer yourself to the other side of it.
I see Ron Burgundy saying stay classy.
Absolutely. I mean, there is a little bit of that, but that's, I guess,
I think that's
classy.
A good reminder. Come on.
Yeah.
Act like, you would act if you knew your parents were going to, see you acting or what you did. So how do you measure your success?
I think you know this. I've also moved to different roles that probably financially I would have benefited had I stayed in those roles.
It's easy to see in the rearview mirror, isn't it?
No, I actually, like, eyes wide open, I knew those things.
Yeah.
But I think success for me is really about like it's really about fulfillment. I'm not I want to be able to give my family a really good life. I want to be able to support the causes that I deeply care about. I want and want to protect a nice lifestyle to a certain extent.
Of course, yeah.
But money is not a motivator for me. And I know that about myself. I also know that a lot of people that I have managed or have been colleagues are motivated by that. So it's important to always be thinking about what is the thing that motivates somebody else, even if it's not the thing that motivates me. But what does motivate me is like deep fulfillment. I get a ton of fulfillment on leading teams, on building teams. I always talk about this, like there's this thing that you can feel when you're in a team that just is like, it's a golden era. Like and it's usually that you're conquering something hard, but I can point to multiple moments in my career where that team at that time, we all collectively look back and we knew that it felt like magic.
Yeah.
And being able
right time, right place, right product.
Well, no, because usually it's like the product's like a little janky and needs to be worked through, or like, no, it's actually a really hard time. And so people have to be like super raw and vulnerable and bring their best self each and every day, but also disclose that like their energy levels might not be that high. And then that team surrounds them and helps them like get like kind of pick themselves up from that because of what we're producing. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like in every single day it's a moment of success, but you come out of that period and what you delivered was a success. So I'm super motivated by that, and I'm very, very, very motivated by being present with my family.
Sure.
And I started my career, and I was so surprised by the amount of, a few decades ahead of me leaders that would share, gosh, I'm 60 years old, and I have a divorce, and my kids don't know me, and then getting
that would be shitty.
Yes, and I think, and I really appreciate and applaud a lot of those leaders that had shared that with me, who also said, like, that's a choice. Don't let that happen to you. So for me, I've been very choiceful in most of my career was spent traveling internationally every week, but getting back to my kids as quickly as possible, creating rituals that like were imprinted on their brain so that they didn't when they look back at their childhood, and they're 11 and 13, so they're still in their childhood, but like if they look back at being 3 and 5, they remember going to Johnny Pepperoni's for pizza on Friday night. Like they don't remember that I wasn't there on Wednesday and Thursday because I was in South Africa.
Right.
And the flip of that is that it can feel, I think a lot of folks oftentimes will say, well, is there, you're sacrificing a lot, because I would take 6 a.m. flights, red-eye flights, like I'm always home by Friday morning, and then I, pop right up with the energy to enter into that room. Ayn Rand writes a lot about sacrifice, and she actually shares that there's like that sacrifice doesn't necessarily exist, that there are choices in these things. So for me, it's like I know I'm like fully aware of the choice that I'm making, and that's okay that I might be tired, because I really, in the long run, I'm like I think I hope I'm going to come out of this feeling like a connected human with my little people.
Can you do it all? Are we asking too much of parents in the working world today?
I do think it matters to have empathy, like deep empathy for people in whatever stage they are in, and it's not just parents. I think there's a lot of elder care that is going on right now. I think there's a really deep mental health epidemic that's going on right now as well. And so being able to communicate to both our friends, like this isn't on the professional side, but like to both your friends as well as the people that you work with, that it's okay to be human, and that it's okay to express, this is a priority for me, and I am going to be my best self if I'm able to train for this marathon, or I'm able to go to this cooking class, or I'm able to be home for my children at dinner time. Like what the priorities are not going to be the same across all people, but it's important to have those conversations around what those priorities are for each person.
I hear a lot of this stuff, though, like bring your best self to work, and or your real self and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of it sounds like lip service. And it's like, we're going to say these things, and go home and spend time with your children, but get the fucking work done.
Yeah.
And, that, I hope you had a good time with your kids. Now stay up till 3:00 in the morning finishing that presentation for the earnings call next week, or whatever. Because, the life of an executive is an all-on thing.
So what you just described is one of my greatest frustrations, like not modeling that behavior, like not modeling the behavior for people to have that space, I think is a real challenge in the world.
So how do you do that if the work's got to get done?
So it depends on planning. And I'll give this real life example. Like our board planning historically used to be like truncated into a few days beforehand. It was like highly stressful, and people having to shift off of current projects in order to work through that. I set the board meetings four quarters out. Our board meetings are scheduled to 2027.
Wow.
2027.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that you can't be agile and that things don't have to switch. And I also set those topics like a few quarters out. And again, things happen. So, you have to pivot. I always say this about like a plan. The plan, there's no plan that's ever like exactly executed. But I do think that you can be planful around things. And I think for that help to mitigate some of that stress that you just described. I think it's important for executives to model these behaviors around balance. I also I work at different times. For me, it's really important to work early in the morning, but it's also important for me to get home to my kids.
Right.
And
but if you're working at, and my life is different now, but I would get up at 4:30 in the morning because that's when when I had young kids, because that's when I had focus.
Yep.
But then you're sending emails to the West Coast and it's 1:30 in the morning or 2:00 in the morning. I mean, it's
simple solve though, Paul. Just say, "Hi, I'm sending it at this time.
Right.
I do not need you to respond."
Do you really think that people pay attention to that
I
note?
absolutely do. And we ran through this. I've run global teams for 15 years.
Right. And you're talking about people 12 time zones away.
Absolutely. There's no world where there is 1 hour where it makes sense for every single person.
Right.
Somewhere in there is going to have to be a trade-off. So you literally have to take it head on. I am going to communicate at this time because this works for me. I recognize this doesn't work for you. Don't ping me 50 times saying hey, or I'm offline at this time. Don't ping me 50 times thinking that I'm going to respond. So what you're getting at is how do you build teams and culture that has deep respect for the boundaries, but also I run super high performing organizations.
Mm-hmm.
There is not a world where we're taking our eye off the ball in terms of performance
Or quality.
But you can drive performance and high quality without always being working 90 hours a week and always behind the 8 ball. There are going to be moments where that happens. And that's the other thing. But if I'm asking that of someone, or if somebody else on my team is asking that of someone, it's because it's the Super Bowl. Let's go.
Right.
And let's lock arms and really get this done. And then there's an energy and an excitement to it.
Yeah.
So that's I find it interesting where that friction exists, and usually that friction exists because it's lip service and people aren't actually modeling it. It takes time and energy and discipline to get there.
All right. Well, you're reporting from the front lines of modern commerce. Let me make sure that I've asked all the interesting questions. There's lots more to talk about, but we're not Joe Rogan. We don't do 3-hour shows. You have a company to run. You have children to raise. You have marathons to run.
I do not run marathons. I'm actually a horrible runner. I am horrible. Literally, if I run a 5K, I'm the last person, and the police escort is excuse me, ma'am, are you going to finish this soon?
We went and watched the finish of the New York Marathon, my kids and I, in the park, because it's 4 blocks from our house, and it was really fun to just see how much energy there was for the stragglers. It was really cool.
It is. It's special.
You are not a straggler. Thanks for spending part of your very busy day with me.
Thank you. This was awesome.
Where can people find out more about Puck?
Absolutely. Please subscribe. And as I mentioned, there are a ton of different verticals that really, I think, will give such intellectual stimulation, even if you are not a professional in that particular category. And with the launch of the Hidden Layer, our AI franchise, I could not be more excited about this.
Good.
So just go to puck.news and you can subscribe there.
I'm on an AI learning binge, so I'm really looking forward to spending some more time with that. The quality of the writing is outstanding. Rabbit hole warning, you could find yourself learning about all kinds of stuff you didn't intend to, but there you go. There's the value.
That's the point.
Right on. Sarah Personette, thank you for joining.
Thank you. This was awesome.